belonging. And that is a patchwork quilt that was given to me by my aunt. Some of the patches are part of my life. There is the patch of material that is my baby blanket. There is the patch of tweed that came from my father's vest. If I hold it up to my nose, I can almost smell him. There is the patch of, and if you look very carefully, you will see it, of my teddy bear that was washed and worn, and finally that was all that was left of that precious teddy bear. And I wrap the quilt around me, and it makes me feel warm and cozy. And it's almost as if it's like a DNA of spirituality of a quilt. Because I look at each one of those patches and I think, oh, I remember him, or I remember her, or I remember my life. And you have this DNA of spirituality that kind of comes to one person in me and in you. Last week when my son was married, he walked in and I looked and thought, there he is, this patchwork quilt of DNA from my entire family and my husband's family. And some of them were actually there. They had the cousins who we don't really talk about, but they were there anyway, and they were kind of the cloth of rough but central to who we are. And we have my husband's stepbrothers and my sisters and their husbands and my nephews. And it was this wonderful sense of, actually on this side, of my family and his family, and we're all here together. And then we had Deirdre's family that were all gathered on this side, and the German ancestry and the Irish ancestries, and everything that made up her and made her look so beautiful in that wedding dress. And then during the service, it was almost as if the quilt was sewn together. So that on her side and on his side, we had the DNA merged together in a patchwork of saints and ancestors and many, many things that came together for the two of them and for us. And frankly, as I look out here, I see again a patchwork of DNA of sainthood. Because we have many different things that make us up, both in ourselves and our spirituality, in this church, and in our Christian faith. You have the spirituality of the people that imprinted on me at my baptism. You have the spirituality of this church and the names that we read that were so hard to get through. We had mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sons and daughters. We had altar guild directors as vestry members, all of whom made this patchwork that we call St. Margaret's. And we have the Christian faith that St. Margaret's is part of. We have Paul and Phoebe. We have Sarah and Abraham. We have Martin Luther King. We have, name your own saints throughout not only our history, but those that have meant something to you, that you're saints. Because to be saints, you don't have to be mauled by a lion. You don't have to be flailed. You don't have to be torched. Because we all have the chance, the right, and the opportunity to be a saint. Because what is a saint? A saint is someone who desires to do God's will. A saint is someone who uses their gifts and strengths that God gave them to do God's will, whatever that may be. A saint is someone who woke up this morning and said, I think I'll go to church today. A saint is someone who, whatever your gifts and strengths are, you put them to God's will. Whether it's you let somebody in on Route 50 who needs to merge, or that person who has the potato chips behind you and you've got that big cart at Safeway and you let them go ahead of you. Or it can be as simple as volunteering for the intercessory prayer list, signing up for winter relief, helping me plant daffodil bulbs next Saturday morning. A saint is anyone who can do things and says yes to God's will. But some assembly is required. Some volunteers, some getting up in the morning and saying, yes, God. It can be, and I hate preaching on the Beatitudes because, boy, I tell you, the bar gets set real high. Blessed are those who are meek. But blessed are those who thirst for righteousness. Can I have an amen on that one? Amen. Blessed are those who mourn and will be comforted. Amen. Blessed are the peacemakers. Amen. Good for you. At 9 o'clock there was this dead silence. Maybe, maybe not. Blessed are the meek. Ooh. I like my crowd. But each time we look at the instruction manual to be a saint, those are what we look for. And we are about to add more and more and more patchwork quilt patches to our quilt this morning. People who we will honor and hold as members of St. Margaret's, who will be part of our patchwork quilt. Because when we walk into the gates of heaven, as I do, I am convinced that I will have this quilt around me. And God will say, let me look at your quilt of sainthood. And we will stretch it out on the nearest cloud. And he will say, or God will say, tell me about that square. And I'll say, ooh, that's the one where I wasn't quite sure where I was going to find the patience. And I may have yelled at my children that day. But the next day, God, you gave me the strength not to yell at them. Maybe not the next day after that, but we're working on it. And God will say, what about this one? And I will say, that's the one where when I was 40, I chose not to work with the homeless, but when I was 50, you gave me the chance to work with the homeless. That's the one where all I could do was just to sit and pray. I couldn't have enough energy or courage to do anything else, God. And God will wrap that quilt around me and say, it was enough. Welcome, Saint. As we baptize new saints, the DNA of all of us will be wrapped in these new Christians as we honor and celebrate the DNA of spirituality of those that we mentioned. All of us are that patchwork quilt. May we wrap it around us so that we can have the strength and courage today to say, yes, God, today I will be a saint.